protecting your peace means your energy, your mind, your soul. Like, get the distractions out of your life and get back home into your internal calm. And I want to say this lastly, when I say those words, protect your peace, like, it doesn't mean that, like, you're not going to have chaos around you. It's not some magic formula to like, oh, I'm going to start praying and meditating and everything around me is going to change. No, peace, protecting your peace says the storm exists. We acknowledge it, but the storm is going to pass, right? The chaos exists, but the chaos is not going to kill the calm inside me. So that's what it stands for me.
From a professional soccer career to becoming a driving force in the mortgage industry, Brian Covey has shown what it takes to find your competitive edge. Get off the sidelines and get in the game. Find your competitive edge with Brian Covey.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Finding Your Competitive Edge. So today, we have a true competitor, somebody that if you've not heard Trent speak, today you're going to hear not only his heart and his passion, his love of people, his love and his faith and the love of God, but how he actually has turned that into a career where he's impacting people, motivational speaker, former NFL player. What he would tell you outside of being a performance coach and working with his son's football team, all that, he's a man of God. And I actually believe after hearing him speak at the Ford event in Las Vegas with our friend Neil, he's one of the speakers that touched me in a way that I've never heard Trent speak live until that moment. You're going to be blessed today because in your life, there are things that you're going through that actually believe that speaker, that person can speak into you in that moment. And so buckle up today as we go through not only Trent's journey and his story, but what he's doing in the world to impact people. And I want to invite you to consider, where are you and where can you impact people? Who has God called you to impact? And we're going to dive right into it. So Trent, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for having me, man. It's always an honor.
Dude, I got to go back to this because as I'm prepping, I love these things. And I noticed we have this parallel of both of our fathers were pastors. And so I looked at that and I'm like, hold on. Like, we kind of come up a little different way and all that. So let's take everybody back before the Trent they see today. They don't know Trent Shelton back when you were a kid and who you were and what some of that looked like growing up as a pastor's kid and where you grew up. Just a little backstory, the younger version of yourself.
Yeah, man. I didn't know that, bro. So yeah, we're both in the same club for sure. So I grew up pretty much in New Orleans, Kenner area, New Orleans area. I moved there when I was like, not even 1 year old, born in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so I grew up there. And my whole life has been sports, man. I had two older brothers. My dad comes just from a background of brothers that played sports, my mom's side of the family. So that was my thing. And I'll just be like totally transparent. Like, my dad was always the pastor and still is to this day, where, he kept it real with us. I think that's where you see a lot of my transparency on stage and the things that I talked about. Like, he didn't put a perfection on us where it was like, you got to do this, you got to do that. I mean, he guided us for sure. And he made sure we didn't stray too far away, but he allowed us to figure out our own relationship with God. He allowed us to struggle a little bit. He allowed us to figure out who we were as young men. And me and my brothers, we all made the mistakes, but the seeds that were planted from him and my mother always brought us back to God. Even my hardest moments in my life, it was the conversations. It was the, going to church. It was all the things that they had did for us that probably thought didn't mean nothing to us at the time. Because we're like, man, I don't want to go to church. But it was those seeds planted that took harvest at the right time in my life. So growing up, it wasn't a super strict household, but it was a super supportive household. Like, my parents were at every single game, no matter where I played, always supportive. And I realized how blessed I was to have parents like that.
Dude. Well, we lived very similar lives. That when you're sharing that, I'm thinking about that was similar to mine. They would travel, and even when I played college ball and after, they would travel at everything. And similar, I had an older brother, 5 years older, my only sibling. And I remember, because you're sharing that, I'm thinking the younger, so we're always chasing down the older ones. And so I wonder, was that part of your competitiveness, having older brothers and having to compete with them because they don't care that you're younger? They're still they're gonna compete with you.
1,000%. I mean, it wasn't even fair. Like, I was watching the video with my son Tristan, and he was laughing because it was me versus my two brothers. I'm like, how does that work? One is 4 years older, one is 6 years older, and it was always me versus them. And they would not take it easy on me. If I fall and start crying, they would tell me to get up. It was a tough household growing up, but it made it easy. When I got to play kids my age, I'm like, this is easy. So I credit them for me being the athlete and having the mindset that I had, because I had no other choice if I was going to survive in the household.
Yeah, dude, I can relate to that. Yeah, 5 years older, I remember it's like you didn't know any different. You just went out and competed. And
Exactly.
One of the things I love about when I heard you share, at the event in Las Vegas, you were talking about this protect your peace. And I know you got the book there. You talked about the audio versions coming out. This landed with me, and I'll tell you, Trent, this landed with a lot of people. Is today, we live in this world, it's very chaotic. And I want to ask you this about where that came from, but what that means for people. When you talked about protect your peace, I had a chance to listen to it. And I will tell you this, it's one of the things that I've written down and I've actually meditated and prayed on, like trying to understand it even more. So I'd love for you to share that, where it came from, and those that may have never heard this from you. What is protecting your peace?
Yeah, the thing I would tell people first is peace is something you'll never experience if you keep allowing the things you cannot control to control you. And if we look at our life, even in my life, usually when I don't have peace in my life, I'm usually worried about a future that hasn't happened, or I'm worried about a past that I can no longer change, or there's something outside of me that's controlling my internal. And this came to a head. Like I've been saying this probably since 2010. And it really meant something to me in 2016. I was doing a 32 city tour, and it was my own tour. And we did every major city. It was a lot. I mean, doing events, it's a lot. 3 cities a weekend. And I was very exhausted. I was filling everybody else up. Everybody loved it. My team loved it. Everybody's happy and traveling. But, I'm away from my kids. I'm away from my family. There's so much weight. I have problems on the team that I need to take care of, but I'm feeling guilty for taking care of these things. And so in San Francisco, I'll never forget, I was at my breaking point. And I tell people the beautiful thing about a breaking point, you either can break down or break through. And I was very close to breaking down, but I had a breakthrough moment. I went on stage and I prayed backstage and I said, hey, God, just use me. I barely have any energy left, but these people that come here to be, helped and transformed and get a message from me, just help me walk into the person you need me to be. And I lit up that audience and everybody was laughing and cheering and tears of joy. And as I get backstage, I tell everybody on my team, hey, go to the front, take care of everybody, because I wanted some alone time. And as soon as they went away, I busted out crying. And I was like, is this it? I was feeling cursed for the blessing that God gave me, the gift that God gave me, because there was so much heaviness on my life. So I walked back. It was a theater in downtown San Francisco. I walked back out the door and there's this alley. It's just like a movie. It's like the smoky alleyway. And I'm sitting there just bawling my eyes out because like nobody's out there. And I had an encounter that changed my life. It was seemed like a homeless man walking down the alley, and he stops and looks at me. And obviously he could see that I was bawling. I'm trying to like wipe it off. Like, I'm all right. Allergies, right? But he said, man, he's like, you're the guy everybody here to see because, my picture's out there. My name's on the marquee. He's like, everybody out there is saying how much they love you. And I was like, yeah, I'm Trent. He's like, I was like, nice to meet you. And he said, man, it must suck to be you. And it caught me off guard. I'm like, did he just say what I thought he said? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it must suck to be you. And he's like, I'll tell you why. He's like, everybody's here to see you. Everybody's happy. But I'm looking you in your eyes right now and you're miserable. And what I try to do, I try to reach in my pocket and, give him some money to get him out of my way because I didn't want to have that conversation. I had a lot of insecurities at that time. I was like, let me just get this guy. He said, I don't need that. He said, don't feel sorry for me. Again, I feel sorry for you. He said, it may seem like I have nothing on the outside. But he said, I have everything because I have peace. He said, it looks like you have everything, but you don't have nothing because you don't have peace. And that moment right there changed everything for me. I decided that night, that moment, to prioritize peace, to make peace the pinnacle of my life. And if it's not bringing me peace, if it's taking away from my peace, I'm not going to be around it. And sometimes it's very hard, but protecting your peace means your energy, your mind, your soul. Like, get the distractions out of your life and get back home into your internal calm. And I want to say this lastly, when I say those words, protect your peace, like, it doesn't mean that like you're not going to have chaos around you. It's not some magic formula to like, I'm going to start praying and meditating and everything around me is going to change. No, peace, protecting your peace says the storm exists. We acknowledge it, but the storm is going to pass, right? The chaos exists, but the chaos is not going to kill the calm inside me. So that's what it stands for me.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. We've all had those moments, I'm sure you have, even as an athlete, and you think you've arrived, you hit this new pinnacle of success, and you go, that's it.
Exactly.
That's it. And as you're sharing that story, man, I know a lot of people, I get asked this, and I'd love to have your take on it, is you are running a business and you are speaking and you've got events coming up. You got your book, like you're pulled in a lot of directions. How do you, and what's your approach as you're talking about that, like traveling a lot, and have people ask all the time, like, how do you do all of these things and keep some sanity in your life? And I agree with you. There's going to be some chaos, but what's Trent's approach to that, of making sure you are where you need to be and prioritizing that time?
Yeah, I go through my priorities. I have non-negotiables. Like one of my non-negotiables right now is I'm not missing my son's game. I've told people no to huge like podcast opportunities, like to travel, to go do it. Even when Protected Peace is coming out, I was like, I can't do it because my son's having his first 8th grade basketball game, right? There'll be another podcast opportunity. There won't be another chance to watch Tristan play 8th grade basketball. And so I understand the importance of that. I always future think and ask myself, okay, if I say yes to this thing because I'm afraid of missing out, then I'm going to have some regret because I missed out on the thing that I can't get back. And so I'm always thinking like that. And I trust God. I trust that if I say no to something, I trust that the journey will bring a better opportunity or bring the opportunity right back around. I don't live in a scarcity mindset. So I'm okay trusting my non-negotiables. I'm okay with saying, like, people think I travel a lot. I have my seasons where I do, but I turn down a lot. I say no a lot because I know if I'm continuing to go, then at some point, no matter who you are, that battery is going to burn out and you're going to need a recharge. And you're going to get to a place where, which a lot of people in this world are suffering from, this is like burnout. It's because they're always, I believe they're scared to miss out. And I was at a place like that in my life where I felt like, man, I got to do this. I got to say yes. I got to do all these things. But the thing I would ask people is, if saying yes means saying no to yourself, is that really a win in life? And that's the conversation I have with myself. Is this saying no to my soul? Because I do believe your soul speaks to you. I do believe we have discernment. I do believe, I call it internal alignment. And every time I ignored my discernment, my internal alignment, I got myself in a situation, no matter how great it was successful on the outside, it tore me apart on the inside. So I'm not perfect with that, but I'm really good with not having unnecessary pressure on my life to meet expectations or feeling like I have to rush everything. I just trust God and I trust life.
That's beautiful, dude. And I've been there. As you're sharing that, I'm literally thinking to myself of the times that I have said yes, and I knew I was like, I don't have to go do that, but I'm going to do that. And you think you have to do it to get ahead and those things. If you were speaking to somebody today and they're in that season, they're like, hey, Trent, I'm not where you are. I haven't cracked through, and whether it's money or they're just striving to improve their business, whatever. What would you give them as some practical ways of how they can move through that season? Because I think a lot of people are going through this right now. They're that scarcity mindset, whether they admit it, they're there today. How do they move through it? And what did you do to get past that?
One of the things I talk about is destination addiction. And what that is basically we think we have to be somewhere, right? We have these goals, and I do believe in goal setting, but I always tell people I'm more in the standard setting than goal setting, right? I don't really put destinations on my life. When people ask me, where do I want to be in 10 years? I'm like, alive. So I don't get too far and be like, I got to be here at this time. And I think a lot of people are living on other people's timelines. They're running a race that's not their race. They're looking out on social media and saying, oh, I'm supposed to be here. I'm 30, I'm supposed to be here. I'm 40, I'm supposed to be here. And when you run somebody else's race, if you ever ran track before, you run somebody else's pace, you're going to burn out. You're going to get to a point where you can't run your race efficiently and effectively. So you have to trust your pace and be loyal to it and let go of the destinations. Just trust the journey. I've studied major artists that have been successful, speakers, entrepreneurs, and every person that I've talked to is like, they're more in love with the journey than the destination. I think there's a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it says, the man who loves to walk will go further than the man who loves to run, something like that. And what that means is that, man, if I trust my pace and I just keep moving forward, because sometimes I look like a turtle to people. They're like, man, you're moving so slow. You can be doing all these things. And then sometimes I look like a cheetah to people. Like, oh, you're everywhere. But it's my pace. Sometimes I speed up. Sometimes I slow down. So I would tell the person listening, what is the thing right now that's going to move the needle? Stop putting unnecessary pressure on your life. Stop acting like you have to be somewhere by a certain time, and trust your timeline and build the confidence. And I do believe that at the right time, the right opportunities will find your life. I call it building your magnet. I'm not a person that believes in chasing. I know we say chasing dreams. I say it too, but I don't believe in chasing. I believe in building a magnet and taking care of what you can control. And as you build this magnet, the right opportunities find your life. And so I would tell that person to focus on that.
As you're sharing that, I remember in our world of recruiting and attracting people in, like the words sometimes get interchanged, but literally the shift 7 years ago from me chasing and doing that and moving into that attraction and magnetic piece. Yeah. If I could go back to it, Trent, it was again in my soul and the things that you're sharing. I add that in because I just go, man, I had to go through it, and it was painful of chasing people and cold calling people and begging them to do this, and they almost never worked out, ever. And so as I hear you talk about this, and I love you talked about this a little bit at Forward, but I've heard you talk about it lately as well, is this identity. And you're talking about, people want to be at this destination and different things. And you've talked about this identity, and people live in this little bit of, it's toxic, the world that they've created around them. How does someone form an identity that's really rooted in the right things and the foundations, and it's aligned up with who they want to be? How have you done that? What would you advise of people that get their identities clear and aligned?
Yeah, I think you have to go back down to, me having a strong prayer life and me realizing and trying to figure out, who God has called me to be. And it's hard. It's hard in a world where you want to be something. It's hard in a world where people want you to be something, but you have to strip it all away and come back home again to your peace. People always ask, like, how did you know this was it for you? It wasn't no external validation. It wasn't like people were just following. It wasn't like I was getting booked for speaking. I just had peace in the midst of everything. On stage, I had peace. When I created videos, even though I was nervous as heck, I still had peace. And I had this knowing that everything was going to work out. It was just this internal knowing that this was for me. And so I would tell people, like, figure out your principles, figure out your standards, figure out your values, and let that be your compass that guides your life. And so I tell people this all the time. People think it's a cop out, but I tell people, I don't tell people no. I'm like, my principles do. So if you ever get a no from me, it's not, I want to say no because I care. I usually want to help everybody, but I go to my principles. My principles say, man, you probably shouldn't do that. The way your principles are set up, Trent, if you do this, you're probably going to find yourself a little bit stressed out, a little bit with anxiety. And so I'm always trusting my principles in the process. So that helps me with decision making and choice making. It helps me get around the right environment, the right people. And of course, I make my mistakes, but it also helps me identify my mistakes, take ownership, and be able to use those as lessons and move forward with my life.
I love that. And I know one of our friends, Ben Newman, talks about standards all the time, and setting some of those, that has been so helpful for me, because when I started doing the speaking, and nowhere near what you're doing, but there were things I was like, how do you say yes? How do you say no? What are the standards for this? And like, who do I say yes to in meetings and time? And your point with 3 kids with us, and like, where are the things? And it did help me, because there was this people pleasing side of, I wanted to say yes, I want to help people. I believe that's why God put me here. But there's times where you're like, maybe this isn't the time, and it doesn't have to be me, and taking that pressure off. And I love that you've done that, and you've gone into the speaking world. Would there be any advice you give people that are looking to get on stage? Because I hear, and I get asked this one, people that want to get in and speak, and you're doing it. Somebody's wanting to get out there and speak. Would there be any advice, or you look back and you go, I would have done it this way, or you give them some kind of roadmap tips to help them?
Yeah, I love talking about this. I think one is you believing in your message. I think sometimes we can get into a place where we talk about what we think people want to hear, or we teach on things that, if I talk about this will give me more stages. And that might could work, but I do know you will be at home. I do know you will be a more effective communicator. I would tell you connector when you come from a real place and talk about the things that you want to talk about. So for me, it was self-worth. I mean, even to this day, I talk about that. It isn't the popular, now it's a little bit more popularized as far as, mental health and things. But I came into the speaking world talking about these things. And I had people tell me, you probably should talk about productivity or this or that. And that's in my world too. But this is what really meant something to me. So I would say, find your message, believe in your message, find confidence, make sure you're living it. because when you come from your heart and from a real place, you connect to people. And I would tell you too, make sure people know that you do it. You know, I see people say they're speakers all the time. I go to their page, I can't see any of that. So you might say, Trent, well, how am I supposed to speak? Go places. Like, I know starting off, it might seem small, but I tell people this all the time. The best place that I learned how to speak was elementary schools. And people trip out because that audience is so hard, because you got to be real. You can't use big words. You got to get into your animation or they're just going to look at you like you're crazy. So I tell people, you know, anywhere there's eyes and ears when you're first starting, get that under your belt. Get some video of that and show that. And then after that, build relationships. I can tell you the speaking business for me has been a relationship business. I would say 80% of the stages that I get is through relationships. It's me, you know, doing things for others. It's me being kind. It's me pouring everything into engagements that I do get, and I get recommendations. So I would say build those bridges, and don't do it just to get speaking engagements, but build those bridges of friendships and relationships. And that can open up the door for you down the road.
How true is that? That last one resonates so much, because even this weekend there was another event going on that we had in Nashville, and your name came up, and they're doing the next event for them. I'm like, well, I've got some people. And to your point, when you impress people and you're good with people, like you were so great off stage and with people, like I always say, it's not just what you do on stage, it's how you carried yourself off the stage. And those are the ones where I go, if anybody asks me, man, there's like a group where I go, here are the ones that I know will deliver on and off the stage. And you know, that was a great lesson. And I love what you said earlier, because we've got a third grader, right? And I always laugh. People are like, what's your preparation? I'm like, dude, if I can run it by my third grader and he gets it, understands it, he's going to make fun of me. He's going to point things out. He's going to like, I showed him my PowerPoint presentation, and literally Trent is like, I don't understand that. I'm like, cool. We need to make this simple. And thank you for sharing that, because I also wanted to learn too, like what you're doing and how you're out there. I mean, let's shift into, what are you most excited about coming up? Because I know you got some things. You got your event coming up on your birthday, September 21st. You got the audio version of your book, Protect Your Peace. What else are you working on that's getting you excited?
Yeah, outside of those two things, just the coaching programs. You know, I have a retreat, a Protect Your Peace retreat. We go up to my cabin in Broken Bow, and I've done 3 of them, and it's been magical. You know, bringing speakers up there, working through the process, getting over nerves, helping them with storytelling. So that's kind of my baby. It's something that, you know, I don't really talk about a lot. You know, I'm not like talking about speaking tips online a lot, but it's something that I love, and social media and branding and things like that. So that's my favorite thing. And then also we have what I call Rehab University. So that's my courses where we do what I call mini courses. It's a month-long course that I take people on through different topics. We have one, self-worth mastery, impact mastery, the art of moving on. So I love having those moments with the audience, because you take them from somewhere and you bring them to somewhere. And to me, there's no better fulfillment in what we do.
I love it. Okay, last one. I always love to know this. What have you been learning over the last 6 months or so this year? What has God taught you or revealed to you, or what have you been kind of discovering?
You know, the first thing that pops into my heart, man, and I just talked about this last night. Like, I'm in a season this last year. Well, I said the last 3 years has been pretty heavy. But this last year, it hasn't been an ugly heavy. Like, it's a beautiful heavy. It's just a lot of stuff. Like, we just moved into the house, all these things.
Yeah.
But I talked about like not recruiting stress in my life. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm in this place, and I said this yesterday, the simplicity of life, I feel like, is a mastery of life. Like, I'm in this place where I just want simple things. I don't know if it comes with age, but like, I'm throwing stuff away in my closet or giving it away. Like, I don't want all these clothes or shoes. And I just want everything to be simple. And I'm thinking about my life, like, what really matters, you know, and going into this next decade in my life, what do I want? And it's the simple things. It's doing what I love with who I love. And so I realized in my life that I've been just recruiting stress by feeling like, okay, you know, I got to take on this, or I got to do this at times. And even though my peace, and I protect my peace very well, sometimes I can get out of bounds with that. And so I'm in a place now where I'm thinking about, like, how simple can I make everything? Like, my processes, my business, my personal life. Like, let's get down to simplicity so we can enjoy this life. So that's what God's been teaching me, you know, stripping away things in my life to keep me focused on the main thing.
I love that, man. That's for all of us. I always often talk about when you take the trash out, or you organize your closet, or you get rid of the stuff that we do oftentimes. As you're sharing that, I'm thinking, man, how many times do I recruit in stress that I don't need? And a month from now, it didn't even matter. It solved itself and it's gone away, you know, and how often, especially high performers, will probably relate to that. So, well, my friend, we'll make sure to include all the links, make sure everybody knows about your event coming up there in Fort Worth, and then make sure they know about the speaking piece. I didn't know there was that much going on there. We'll put all that in your courses. And I just want to say thank you, because the way you showed up, not only me, but some of my friends that were there, you showed up and impacted people. And the amount I could tell your preparation and how your heart and your soul, when you talk about your message, it was landing not just because of the message, but because of the delivery and the way that you showed up. And I often think about that and looking at your career on the football field. I know that's your competitive edge. It's that side of you that you want to make sure every time you're on a stage or a field or wherever coaching with your boys, you deliver. And so thank you, because you are making an impact. You don't often get to hear that, but we left, and I know a lot of us, that was some of the biggest takeaways we had, and our hearts were changed, which means that our actions are changed.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. That's like the greatest compliment. You know, sometimes you can get in your head and ask yourself, man, am I doing enough? And so every time I get feedback like that, especially from a person like you that's doing it at a high level, man, it means the world to me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
We're on the journey together. And as we say, fighting for the good people to win. And I believe God's message will spread through those messengers. And so we want to make sure we get this out to people. So thank you for making time. Can't wait to release this out to everybody. Guys, this has been another episode, Finding Your Competitive Edge. So Trent Shelton, you will see, if you follow and you see his passion and what he's talked about today, living out in the standards and examples that he has. And so my challenge to you, the end of this is, where are you and where do you want to be? Who has God called you to be? We broke down some things today that you're probably thinking, could that be for me? And I always say, if there's that little tug on your heart, there's something that really lit up for you and got you excited, go pursue that. Follow Trent. Make sure you connect up with him. He's going to give you resources, inspiration, motivation, all that, but also the tools to win. Until then, guys, go out there, do something great, be kind to each other, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.